So, something that I've been doing lately, along with tuning some tattoo machines, is switching out some of the screws on the tattoo machines. You can see I put these hex head screws on everything now. This had a regular Phillips head screw in there, and it's also behind this coil. So the only way to really tighten this up was to remove this coil and then tighten up this post and then put it back on and then adjust my coil again. And some of these other screws needed to be replaced because after a while, if you really tighten down on these, you'll start to strip the heads on these. Or if you're not using the exact size Allen wrench, over time you'll start to strip the heads out on these. So I went through and replaced all of the screws here. You can see this one doesn't quite fit, so if I try to tighten that down, it'll just strip that out. So you need to make sure you use the right size and the right shape. So if you don't want your contact screw to start moving around during a tattoo, if you don't want your post to loosen up, if you don't want your coils to start wiggling around because of the vibration and moving around, you have to use something that you can tighten down nice and tight. And I like to have everything the same, because if it's different, you have to go find a different tool for everything. But if it's all the same, then I can go through with one tool on this one machine and tighten everything, adjust everything down. I don't have to go get 4 or 5 tools. I can just use this one single tool for everything. And you can see with this Allen wrench here, I can get in here and tighten up this post without removing this rear coil. Now, one of the problems with these RCA adapters is there's a lot of wiggle room here, a lot of space. If this isn't tightened down really tight, what's going to happen is when you keep plugging it in, it's just going to keep coming loose and moving around on you. So you have to make sure that this is a real tight connection here, and using a hex head screw and your Allen wrench here will allow you to do that. Now, usually I just use a old needle bar that I've shaped into a clip cord, but if you have to, you can stick your clip cord in there, hold it in place, and then tighten this down really tight. And just make sure that you don't bend your clip cord during that process. Actually, let me go show you what I use, because this is a better way to do this. This is a tool that I use a lot, and all it is a needle bar that I've cut the needle off of and bent the end of it. And you can see when I'm tightening down these posts, I can stick this in here, hold it into place, and then come in here and tighten this down. Or I can hold this with my hex key and then move this side around, pull it so it tightens up. And this way I don't mess up my clip cord by sticking my clip cord in there and torquing on it. I can just use this without any problems. So make sure that your adapter is nice and tight so it won't move around, wiggle around on you, won't vibrate. And one of the ways to do that is to put some washers on there and then put a hex head screw on there and tighten that down real good. If you can tighten down all these screws so that everything is nice and tight, it's likely that you won't have to mess with this machine, unless you're me and you can't seem to leave things alone. But if I was an artist who, let's say, didn't know a whole lot about tattoo machine tuning, and I needed a machine to last me a really long time, I would hope that someone would know this and that everything would be tightened down to the point where I could just pick this up and use it for 5 years until this front spring wears a hole in it without tuning this. Everything should be made so that it's in tune, and then it's tightened down to the point where I don't have to mess with it. It won't move around on me. Everything will pretty much stay the same and run the same for a really long time until I burn a hole in the front of my spring and have to change it out. So using hex head screws will help you with that, help you tighten everything down nice and tight. It'll fit nice and snug. And on the bottom of your machine, if you use these rounded screws, that'll be a lot more pleasant for the tattoo artist who has to hold this machine, and this machine will move around. It'll sit on top of the hand of the artist and it's not going to feel uncomfortable. Use these rounded ones down here and it'll be nice, comfortable usage for your tattoo artist.